Welcome back to Diesel Works, guys. Finally, the K-member showed up. Ooh. So light. You can just feel how fast you're gonna go. Now, it's time to cut all this crap off. Don't need that anymore. Like in the last video, this got the cross member cut out. I'm gonna get these cut off. I'm gonna grind down the control arm mounts for where this section of the K-member, it goes up around, like over the cross member or over the control arm bracket, but you have to grind it down basically. Instead of like these jagged points, make it like a nice smooth round kind of deal. And then once that's done, you bolt the back of it in there, and you line it up with the front. So here we go.
side, so a little bit of a jump cut, I guess you'd say.
I got the K-member in. Now, once again, not a welder, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I TIG'd the chromoly tubing to the chromoly plate, but I MIG'd the plate to the frame, and the plate down here looks a little more splattery than I'd like right there, but this side's good. And then MIG'd along here, and then these like stragglers or whatever you want to call it, like more so over here, like this and this. It's where I nicked through when I was cutting the cross member out. The bar went a little, or the cutoff wheel got a little too deep. Now we get to move on to this, which, not looking forward to this, let me tell you. So now what we're gonna do is cut out the wheel wells on either side. And these plates right here are the width of how much this is gonna get widened. Basically, a little more than a whole wheel well, you know, making, be like here, fit the bigger tires. Now, not only are we doing that, but I guess now is as good a time as ever. The bed, the cab, all of it needs body work. Once I get the front clip, that'll also need like sanding, stuff like that, but the bed itself really needs body work. And it's bent this way, tweaked that way, panels. I mean, just look at these wheel wells. They're all smashed in, 30 years of not giving a crap and treating it like a truck bed, but there's enough body work to where I've really considered getting another bed, starting with a little better, something that doesn't need as much. But the problem is every other bed that I found has its own set of problems. This one doesn't have any rust. It's all solid sheet. It's just, like in here, it's broken off and cracked. The lip's not good. That's looks like crap and falling apart. Dents. I don't know if you can pick it up, but yeah. Dent. Back here, the bed corners all bent to shit and beat. Same thing with over here. This one's not nearly as bad. Still needs a little touch up though. And then, I don't know if you can pick it up on video, but at the end of the bed up there, it's real kicked in, I'm sorry. And, like I said, it was either deal with this or gamble on another one. It's dealing with the devil, At least I know this bed's solid. There's no rot. And any other one that I found, it was going to need just as much work, just in different areas. Whether it was the paint was so bad it was going to need taken down to bare metal, or, it had dents, or it was clean, but it had rust. So I'd rather deal with good metal and spend the time hammering, dollying it out, than trying to deal with rust. Rust sucks. And I'm from up north, Pennsylvania. I know rust. Florida, rust is a joke down here, and people say something's rusty, it might have a little flake. In Pennsylvania, in the winter, trucks are missing this whole, wheel well because of rot. Now, the other thing too, there's a bunch of these little holes. They had camper shell or topper, not camper shell, I'm sorry. Like a papaw cap, over and drill holes. This side, maybe it was a toolbox at one point. That side, the holes go all the way down. Over here, this is the only rust on the entire bed. And it's not even really bad. My guess is it was damage from throwing whatever in the bed, eventually putting holes in it, and then those holes started to rust. I don't know exactly what my plan is for this yet. I'm thinking about maybe, depending on how easy I can get the dents out and whatever else, because once I cut these wheel wells out, I'll be able to come up in here. Let's see where this hole is. It's not rust. It's like, maybe it is. I don't know. It's like something punctured it, and then, but anyways, I'll be able to get my hand up in here and be able to get the dents out, pretty sure. And then there originally was trim here. We don't need that. That's gonna come off. Depending on how difficult the bedsides are to fix, as much as I don't want to, it might be easier to take the bedsides off the bed. And if I do that, I can get this piece from like LMC and just replace it. It's a couple $100. And, you know, I'm trying to save every bit of money I can by doing the work myself. But I also know, and I've learned the hard way, sometimes you just got to spend the money because, you know, say it's $200 to get this, while me trying to fix it is going to take 3-4 days of work. And like, or I just spend the $200, goes right in and we're done. So we'll see how that's going to go. And then same thing with, I looked at getting bedsides to see if that was an option, like just replacing the entire bedside on either one. But for the price, I don't know. I'm still debating. We'll see here once I cut these wheel wells out, because at the end of the day, this thing is going to be not real structural. It's going to have a tonneau cover, and not like your standard, you know, like vinyl or leather tonneau cover. We're going to weld in Zeus rails down either side. And it's just going to be sheet metal, 3 big sheets, 3 individual sheets. I don't know if I'm going to piano wire them together, piano hinge them together, or what. Maybe just 3 sheets. Don't know yet. But it's going to have, so you're never going to see the inside. On top of that, the roll cage is going to come down, and still haven't decided this either. It's going to come down, go through the floor here into the frame, or I'm thinking about running it through the panel here, just because I like that as far as like a streetcar look. You won't see any bars. You know, you pull up next to a stoplight, and not that I would do any kind of illegal street racing in the United States, but let's say you were in Mexico and somebody pulled up next to you and looked at your truck. Obviously, you having roll cage bars coming out the back, it's kind of a big dead giveaway. Probably not a stock 4-cylinder engine. Besides the noises and everything else that it's going to make, we'll see. I just want it to look factory plus, I guess you'd call it. I don't know what you'd say. Like, I want to keep the factory look, but just subtle differences. I'm not trying to make a low rider or, you know, some pimp my ride crap. I just want it to, subtle hints, other than the noise it's going to make, but just subtle hints that, oh, this thing's a race car. But like you said, this is going to be a good amount of work. And then I guess the other thing too, it's going to get a roll pan. So once we cut these wheel wells out, then we'll set it back on the frame, back here. And just kind of we're going to mark in how far. I guess I could probably measure it too, but see how far in. I got to cut the bed floor on either side. It's not going to be a whole lot of room in the center of this thing anymore. And once it's not like this truck's going to get used for really anything. Ideally, I'd love to be able to throw a dirt bike in the back of here still. I kind of doubt that's going to be able to happen, but one can hope. The fuel cell, water box, or ice chest, ice box, whatever you want to call it, for the intercooler back here. And then the bars, because, we're talking here, and here's the bar. Like, we'll have to see. But the chassis is pretty much done for right now. The K-member's in. I got pretty much everything, all my welds ground down that I want to. I still got to grind these down a little bit, make it flush. It's for right now, until I get the upper control arms, lower control arms, and the coilovers. I'm not going to cut apart the top of the control arm bracket, because depending on which setup I go with, they're all kind of different on how they mount. So these are going to get left, because my luck, or, I get antsy and I jump ahead of myself, and I think, I'm going to do myself a favor. Let me cut these off now, and it'll be, that way when I get the new parts, I'll just go right in. And then I get the new parts and realize I just cut off way more than I should have, and then I got to spend 3 days fixing and finding parts to put it back for the stuff to work. The only other thing that I'm still missing is, I don't know if I said this in another video, but it's going to be a 4L80 transmission, and they make, like, out of the box cross members, like adapters, to bolt in to work with a 4L80.
They're like $300, and I have the cross member still, and it's literally just a bar holding up the back of the tranny, and basically it's to get your angle right, your pinion angle right, when you set everything in. Obviously you got your motor plates and whatnot, but that's to support the back and get your angle right. So I think I'm just going to end up either altering the factory one, or maybe just getting some chromoly tube, really, and putting a plate on one side or both sides, however, maybe a plate to lay it down here, like a sideways plate to lay down here and then up there. I don't know. That's in the future. But for right now, for the first chassis I've ever built, and built is it's not like I did this thing from scratch. It's still a factory frame car, but it wasn't as difficult as I originally thought. The problems that I thought would happen didn't, but I encountered a lot of stuff that I didn't think would be a problem, and it was. The only thing I'd say about it going forward is, honestly, if I did it again, I would probably build an entire chassis, because at least then put it this way, you're starting.
I'm having to work off the factory frame, and it's 30 years old. It's not straight, not perfectly straight at least. And then you're having to align this to that to this, and then the other side's off when this side's not. And granted, this isn't the greatest setup for it either. Ideally, this thing should have been on a frame table, like a big, heavy, perfectly zero flat frame table. But this isn't a fab shop, and for me to get something like that, it's a bit ridiculous and overkill. Now, like I said, though, if I was going to do this again,
I probably would get a frame table or build one or do something and build my own. Because for the money that I've spent in the back half and the K-member, I think, at least raw materials wise, I could have been cheaper in buying a tube chassis, you know, basically a chassis on a pallet from like More Race Chassis or Rhodes or, you know, kind of name your chassis builder. They all sell these chassis, you know, on a pallet, shipped to you, and then it's putting a big puzzle together. It's a million tubes and, you know. But at first, thinking for never doing one of these, when I thought about doing that, it terrified me that it was too much. I had never done something like this before, and I didn't want to bite off way more than I could chew. So, but after doing this, and if anyone's gonna, you know, in this situation where they're thinking about it, I think you're better off getting a tube chassis, because then, as long as you got the frame table, or you know you're starting from, you know, you got a perfectly flat surface, it's just going to go smoother. You don't have to clean it as much. You don't have to worry about 30-year-old metal. You don't have to worry about, you know, bends and ups and downs and all that. It's just, you know, starting, you can make it as hard or as easy as you need it to be. And then it's just setting the cab and stuff down on it. You cut out the floor of your cab, cut out the firewall. Like, it just, like I said, that's what I would do going if I did this again. Who, you know, maybe, you know, when this is done in 7-8 months, and I have the itch to make my life miserable again, I'll look at doing that. But for now, working on the bed. All right, so got it out. It was way more of a bitch than I thought it was going to be, but you would think it'd just be, oh, nice and simple, cutting it out. It was not. Also, someone put this terrible bed liner in here, and I got a sandblaster, like a blast cabinet. I put it in the blast cabinet to see if I could get it off, and no, it's not coming off. So, I'm gonna see if the old wire wheel, take it off. It's gonna make a mess, but I'd like to get it off, just to be able to hammer and dolly some of these dents out. So we shall see. But it was just a lot of cutting with, I followed the line, the outline seam, cut it out, and all that's left is like the lip from this that went down into the bed and then over, because it didn't really, it's spot welded in. I'm just gonna weld it, a bunch of tacks down the side, around, and then in here you can see now the, like, I guess this was like a filler panel, whatever, that's all coming out. We don't need that. My guess is it was to stop weather from going up and getting into the bed sides, but we're going drag racing. It ain't going in the water. So I don't need it. It looks terrible, and it'll get me to the back to fix the dents. Next step's that side. Cut it out. And then start kind of fixing these. Body work them as best I can while they're out. And then kind of mock fit everything up, because I'll have to cut the floor about there, kind of like this rib. I don't need to worry about getting this me take you around this way. I don't need to worry about getting this crap off because when I cut the floor, I do have to get this tab like flap, but then I'm going straight back on the other side and gonna cut out that support. Well, at least to where I need it to. And then weld the old girl in. And just like that, tubs. Ugh. All right, till next time. See you guys.